Thanks for staying with us. So on this segment, we'll be discussing the updates on the collapsed 21-story building and how Lagos State is to prosecute 4 homes. Joining us on the show is the National President, Mr. Toyin Ayinde, Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, and he was also the chairman of the committee that sat to presided over the review of what happened with the story building collapse. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Good
morning, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. So now we saw the report. He came out recently and gave us all the various the accusations of what happened, the investigation that happened, how it took place, and then the fact that these companies will be persecuted. Could you, in a nutshell, summarize for us your findings, just very quickly, so that we can take the conversation from there?
Well, first, let me say that I think what you saw was the white paper.
Yes.
That government is the author of the white paper, where the tribunal, it wasn't a committee, it was a tribunal. That's why everyone that came before the tribunal was on oath. The tribunal had its findings and its recommendations that it gave to government, and then government set up its own white paper committee and went through all that we submitted and came out. But let me say that what the tribunal did was to work on the documents that were brought to us. Don't forget that the building had already collapsed, and what we needed to do, anything after that date of collapse was after the effect. Mm-hmm. So what we did was to study the government documents on it. There was a file on it. We went through that file. Of course, we subjected the materials on site to testing, and we engaged an internationally reputed, certified building material testing laboratory. It wasn't just anyone. It was with the reports from the laboratory and what we gleaned from the fire. We also had the opportunity to get into the house of the chief executive of Foursquare with the police and members of his family. We didn't take anything away. What we just did was to scan, snap those things we needed, thought would give us sufficient.
In a nutshell, I mean, you said you blame the collapse of the erosion of professional ethics and disregard for due diligence. And that's what I wanted to harp on today. Where you said lack of professional ethics, this could be defined in different ways. So it's important for us to understand what that means. Is it that the workers there were not professional? Is it that the owner himself wasn't professional? At what point did you notice lack of professional ethics?
Now, our word really was not just professional. I say it was a collapse of ethics, morals, and values. Mm-hmm. So, and when we say ethics, morals, and values, it's not just about professionalism. When we were making our submission, there's a phrase I used in my address, and I said members of the tribunal will be seeking protection because in a few weeks' time or in a few months' time, they will actually become the villains because Nigeria is not ready for progress.
Wow.
Nigeria is not ready for progress because at the end of the day, what you will have will be that, okay, we're trying to solve collapsed building issue that has been with us since 1971. 1971, it's over 50 years now. Now, people expect these things to be solved without finding anyone responsible for the lapses. And that's going to be very difficult. For all of us who were on that tribunal, we're private sector people. None of us was a government I had served government, but I served in the capacity of a commissioner. Yeah. And I was brought in because of my professionalism. So when assignments like this are given, I dare say that it goes beyond the ordinary. We were on trial as members of the tribunal. We were on trial with our children. I have children to whom I'm a mentor, and they're trying to see how will their father behave. You know, I have proteges who are looking at me, who have seen how I have behaved over the years. All of my members are people who are coming from years of experience, and people are looking at them. Are they going to be objective? Let me say that even professionals did not trust the tribunal. Yeah. And that's why everybody was setting up his own kind of panel and things like that. And for what purpose? Okay, I thought that we should be giving information to those professionals because they represented some professional body. So that's what I meant by a collapse of ethics, morals, and values nationally.
Right. Okay, so we're told that the government accepted 26 out of the 28 recommendations. I would have loved to know what those 2 that they did not accept is. That's one. Then secondly, it was written that all the negligent professionals and civil servants whose failure led to the tragedy will be disciplined and prosecuted. In the course of your investigation, did you pin those people who were responsible? Do you have their names?
Okay, let me go to the first question. You know, like everybody, I just read the news of the release in the newspaper. In fact, I was between Owerri and Umuahia as I just landed from the airport, and somebody just sent me the document. So I just learned about it. I actually don't know the 26
that was picked.
That were picked. I don't know the 2 that were rejected. But I also read that the government, I mean, there was a statement that the 2 or 1 was nebulous or something like that. You know, what is nebulous is hazy. I'm not sure, but I think the media can also ask government
to tell us.
Yes, because I really do not know. But what we did was to look through stage by stage, process by process, who was responsible for what were the lapses, what were the things meant to have been done and were not done. And we were able to put those names together. Yeah. And we had not just prose, we had a tabulated form of what we did.
Okay, so in one of your reports, you mentioned that one of the approvals was a fraudulent one in the report. Also, you mentioned also that, you know, the First Court Limited or Company Limited must be prosecuted. Now, if we lift the veil, I'm wondering if you did as a panel, who are the remaining directors that we can find, considering that, you know, the Ombudsman himself died in the collapse?
Yeah, the document we have for First Court shows that he has 2 directors. So 1 director died. There's 1 more director. So as far as the tribunal was concerned, there's still a director. So that's 1. 2 is that there were actually lawyers who represented First Court. And initially, they said they had no more information than we had because we told them what we had and what they could give us. They said they had no more information. But to the tail end of the assignment of the tribunal, the same lawyers came and requested to visit the site because they had a hunch that there might have been a foul play. So when you have a team of lawyers coming from that angle, then it shows you there's a company somewhere. So that's what we thought. So you know what? Prosecute these people. Since there is a company on ground that is even able to say, even when 52 people have died, there's still a company that is saying, okay, we think there's foul play, so let them come and then they can prove it.
One of your recommendations was that the other 2 buildings be brought down. Did you inspect those buildings and did you notice that they too were not well.
I'd like to add to that question because that was like part of my second question. When those two other buildings, because to a layman, what the answers a layman is asking for is that they not dig deep enough to hold that kind of that level of layers, or is it that they use poor materials? So when you inspected these buildings, because they're already recommending for those two buildings to come down, is it the soil, is it the foundation, is it the length of the foundation, or is it the materials they use exactly that had problems?
Okay, everything. Part of the report showed that even when the piles for foundations were being made, there were failures. Although there was claim to have redone them, but let's assume that they redid them. But these were structures that first came in as 5-floor design, and then they went to 7-floor design, and then to 10-floor design, and then to 15-floor design. And one of them was now taken to 20 floors. By the way, it was 20 floors, not 21. Now, what happened was that there was just an incremental process. And by the time the tribunal, we had experts and we were being advised. By the time the desk analysis, the engineering desk analysis was done on those two buildings, we discovered that the engineers might have considered dead load and live load. The dead load are the construction materials themselves. The live load of the human beings that will come later. But they did not consider wind load. And when it comes to a height like that, you have to consider wind. So what will happen, or what would likely happen, was if there is a storm and people are already living in those two buildings, they could actually come down.
So who approved those increments from 5 to 10 to 15? Who?
From 5 to 7.
No, there was no process of approval for 5, 7, or 10. There was a submission for 15 floors. And that was the only approval that the developer had.
And went ahead to
those that approval was processed in 3 days.
In 3 days. So that was not properly done.
Wow.
So for us, it couldn't have been properly done. There wasn't sufficient time
To investigate,
in the view of all professionals to investigate properly that level of development.
You know,
These corners we like to cut in
my
this
own
country.
fear or my thoughts are, okay, this is not the first building in Lagos that has collapsed. This is the first one that we are actually seeing the results of the tribunal. We're actually seeing the
Government action.
not even just the government, that the recommendation of the
White paper.
the prosecution of the
Owners of the building. Owners of the
the
building.
owners of the building. Because the one that happened with the synagogue till today, where we didn't hear anything. There was one in Lekki. They made a show of arresting the guy. We haven't heard anything. This is the so is it because the owner died?
I can't say whether it's because the owner died, but you will know that it's usual for government, especially if many people died, to institute or constitute a panel to probe. And I have to thank the Lagos State government for that privilege. It's a privilege. One of the things we stated in our recommendations is that government should go and exhume all previous recommendations. We're not coming from the moon. we're also professionals, like previous professionals have sat on tribunals or panels like this. So government will do well to also go and exhume those reports and see what they can learn from them and implement. And moreover, we're also saying that we're hoping that government will have courage, because to do the right thing in Nigeria is
difficult.
Let's pick your brain a bit, because you made a statement earlier, which I thought was really profound, that Nigeria is not ready for development. And I think that is something that is worth discussing further, especially because you've been in government before. under Fashola, and you've also gone back to your professional job. In your view, do you think, how do we stop this bleeding that Nigeria is going through, where all of us seem to be very immoral? I mean, before you came on, we had Otumba talking about the fact that they are beating up staff of the PHCNs. Yes, and people are saying, well, there's a reason now because they come and give us all this billing. But it's like we're a system of, I hate to use it, crazy people. Everybody's jungle justice up and down. So, you know, because you're in government, where have we gone wrong? And how can we fix this bleeding where even professionals are cutting corners and everybody seems to be above the law in our country?
The truth is, all of us at one time or the other have an opportunity to do what is right. The way I look at it is, it's my duty to do what is right. So before I ask you to do what is right, I must first show you that example that I am struggling to do what is right. I think Nigerians, many Nigerians want to do right. There are some who want to do bad, but they're also looking at who is that person breaking the law. If I tell my driver, when you get to a traffic light and you see amber, is he ready to run or ready to stop?
Ready to
I
stop.
stopped. They bashed me.
You know, because when people see amber, they begin to. So I tell my driver, if the light was on green, once it gets to amber, it's ready to stop.
Yeah.
So don't speed.
Through it.
But you know, someone can bash me.
They bashed me.
And they'll be
But I
pressing
tell-
the horn.
Yeah, but I tell people, I will not, on account of that, make somebody else make me become what I am not. I will still stop in the future because I believe that I have to leave an example for my children. Anything that I cannot tell my children how I arrived at, just forget it. I'm not going to do it because it's going to be difficult. And that's the way I think Nigeria should grow. But I'm not sure. It's painful. I mean, I've spoken somewhere and somebody said, it's painful to be ethical in Nigeria. Yes, it's painful because you will be punished for it.
Exactly, exactly. You are in traffic, and I keep saying it, the traffic is, you are in traffic, you decide to stay on the right lane, everybody will go on the wrong lane. They will go, you will be there because you have decided to do the right thing. When will it end? How will we stop it? How will we stop this cancer that has eaten our... And I'm happy you said it's by example. Because I keep saying, when I say it, Mariah will say I keep accusing government. I am not accusing government. I'm just saying if people see government officials doing the right thing, they will...
That's the strongest example.
I was passing today, I saw FRSC people jump the petrol queue. Who are they to jump the petrol queue?
Let me take this call.
FRSC officials?
Let me take this call. Shakira from Ikoyi. Good morning, Shakira.
No, it's not Shakira. It's Shakiru Omolaja.
Shakiru Omolaja, welcome to the show, madam.
Oh, how can it be madam? Anyway, good morning. Hello?
Good morning, Shakiru. Welcome to the show.
Yes. Now, I have two views, please. Can you hear me, please?
Very clearly. Go ahead, please.
All right. Number one, may I ask our father there, Baba Ayinde, whether the person who did the approval in 3 days would also be prosecuted?
Before.
That's number one, please. Number two, I am a legal practitioner. I know what goes on when it comes to approval of buildings to an extent. Over the years, something terrible has happened. You could have your house and apply for a building plan that will be processed and it will be approved for you. But because of the inordinate ambition, the inordinate drive for revenue generation in Lagos State, they are now saying that you must have a C of O before you can get your approved building plan or a registered conveyance. Now, that has thrown a great spanner into the works. Because those who are going to do a C of O, as a lawyer of about 25 years, I have never processed one single C of O, and I will never do it until I go to my grave. Because the system is absolutely corrupt. You will have to pay every table before you get your approval done. So I don't process C of O. Why must you tie C of O to getting an approved building plan. Hence, you see people cutting corners. I am not making excuses for anybody, please.
Right.
All of,
Fantastic question. Thank you so much, sir. This is your industry. Please help us understand.
Well, let me start by saying that I'm hoping that government will follow through with the white paper. Everyone who has had something to do with that process has been identified. Recommendations have been made. Truly, it's no longer in the power of the tribunal. Like Baba Obasanjo was reported to have said that you may be my special advisor, but the onus now remains with me to either follow your advice or not. So we've made our recommendations, and we're hoping that justice will be done because we've lost 52 people. Lost 52 people.
Sir,
The other question, very important, yes.
That there must be a C of O before you process your building plan approval. I think there's a relief to that. I think now you can still use your receipt with stamp duty. That was on before I became a commissioner. I tried to remove it, but then the governor then explained the difficulty where 3 people will show up with receipts on the same plot of land and things like that. But there's been a relief. I think there's an agreement to follow it up with a deed of assignment or something like that. But it's not as bad as
it used to be. Let me take Pelumi that come to BC. Pelumi from Oshogbo. Good morning. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here, madam.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Please, I just want to ask you one question. We know that the Lagos State government shut down the building a year before it collapsed. Who ordered the release of the person that was arrested and who ordered the reopening of the building? That's what I want to know.
So it was closed down, yes, and then it was reopened. So have you also identified that person that approved the reopening of that construction?
Yes, so this is question.
Okay, you want to answer? Take mine first.
Yes.
Okay. So I know that part of the recommendation was that these people who are culprits should be prosecuted while the matter is still hot before it dies down, and that the public must be made to, must be carried along so that it at least to regain their trust in government. Now, who will monitor or hold the government accountable if this does not happen?
Okay. Let me start with that, and then I'll answer the other question. Who will monitor government? I think it's the media.
Okay.
I think it's the media because we call them the
Gatekeepers.
The gatekeepers, the fourth estate of the realm, the watchdogs and things like that. It's the media. I also think professionals too can do it. But professionals too will do that only through the media. I've been traveling. I've been in 20 states now. And part of what I'm doing is advocacy, trying to tell people, trying to tell governors to do things right. So it's the media that will do that. Who ordered the sealing of that development? Who ordered the unsealing of that development? From the tribunal's report, it remained a mystery, and we didn't want to load it on a dead man. You know, if he was alive, there are a few possibilities. If a building is sealed, it's supposed to be unsealed by government itself. So the report says that the commissioner sealed it. It was the commissioner and his task force that went to seal. So the only person, there's no way a permanent secretary will unseal. There's no way a director will unseal.
Only the commissioner.
So it's only the commissioner or someone higher than the commissioner. We had no proof. Now, the only person who will have told us, and there are other occasions where a developer breaks the seal. So the only person who will have told us or to confirm whether government unsealed or he was the one that broke the seal was Mr. Oshibono himself, who is not alive. And we just thought it wouldn't be fair to say that, okay, because the man is there, so he's the one. So that remains a mystery.
Yeah. Okay, so you are the president, national president of Institute of Town Planners. Now, there are town planning issues we have across the country. People just come up with all sorts of building in different places and blocking drainages here, not planning for ensuring that the communities are well served. You know, a lot of haphazard planning going on. What are you doing as a president? How do we even fix it? Because these are structures. Are you going to start pulling down buildings? What exactly would you do? How do you do your job effectively across the country?
And just as an aside, there was this guest I had, the foreign guest I had, and I showed him the town planning office. I said, oh, that's the... He said, you have a town planning office in Nigeria?
Wow.
He was shocked.
Wow.
You, seriously? Are you joking? That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So,
I agree. Now, I think we have a wrong notion of town planning in Nigeria.
Okay.
And I tell people that what people think is town planning is exactly what is not town planning. Because people look at town planning only from the angle of building plan approval. So when you have approval, you have done town planning. When you don't have approval, I hope I'm still on.
I hope so, though. I'll be told. But go ahead.
When you don't have building plan approval, then you have not done town planning. But it is wrong. The truth is, the responsibility to plan anywhere is that of government. Government is responsible for planning. Town planners are only tools to help them, just like it's government's responsibility to protect life and property. And then you have police that runs it. It's government responsibility to uphold law and order. Yeah. And then there's a judiciary system. That's how there's also a town planning system. So planning answers to a vision. When you see estates organized in US or UK, it's because there's a public housing policy. But because there is no public housing here, everybody does self-help. And there is no way we will do self-help and we will maintain the same standards because we have different access to land, we have different access to funds. So you can do 10 floors and BC will do 2 floors beside you because we are different individuals building. But in other countries, it's corporate organizations that are building. So you will have the replica of the same thing, and they can repeat it from estate to estate, from city to city. So if our governance is a tough thing.
It is.
So it's not what anybody just gets into. When you say you want to be a governor, it's not an easy thing. So you must have that vision that helps the professionals to help you to now make a blueprint. It's that blueprint that we cannot make because most of our leadership is without vision.
On a joking note, too, you know when you're traveling, you're coming back from abroad, and you are getting close to land, and you look down. When you travel outside and you see other countries, everything is laid out, organized, beautiful. It looks like an artwork. But once you come here,
it's government vision.
Like a beam.
Yes.
So now,
they go and build
this
on rivers.
You just mentioned, and what BC just clearly explained in pictures, we have a deficit in housing that these developers start to come into.
Yes.
Is it impossible to plan with these developers such that they cannot come and build on a planned water reserve, what's it called, flood reserve? They can, is it impossible for government to say, we need you people because we need to partner private sector? Come in, but follow this guy.
And let me add to that, because we have a very few minutes left. Yeah. All the countries also, because of housing issues, they have all this high rises where they have, they call them the projects, but they have lots and lots of these across Manhattan, across the bed. Lagos is a city like that. People are coming into Lagos every day. Why can't we commit all these small chocolate houses all over the place and build high rises so that Nigerians can have places to stay?
One of those things the Fashola government was trying to achieve when it embarked on the Salegongon project. Salegongon is in Lagos Island, where we pulled about 11 plots of land together, 11 small pieces of things. And there are about 13 floors of 52 housing units, with those who owned. having part of it and the rest going for commercial. It's a government thing. Government must be decisive. And that's why it is called government. Government has the responsibility to put real estate firms, real estate companies in order. There are those who ask you to come and buy land and then you get a cow and then you get a ram. It just doesn't measure. They don't add up. And you find people having estates in fragile areas, in low-lying areas, which become flooded, as one happened like that in Abuja some time ago. So government must really sit down and be sure where it needs to go. And then there are professionals who will advise them on how to get there.
So the person in the power, the Yoga, should have a heart of cement. Cement hearts.
Visionary leader. That's what Nigerians
should be courageous.
Thank you very much.
Courageous, visionary. If you can have vision and not have heart.
Okay, we have to run, but gosh, I wish we bring you more in, because you've experienced government, and one of the Buhari administration issues is that we seem not to be a visionary governor or president, although we've seen the fact that he's working hard in agriculture, he's working hard in, I think, what else is he doing? Infrastructure. But there are other areas. Education is lacking. It's
a system. It involves systems.
But how can a government, how can a president touch everything? Is it possible? Or are you going to touch everything or just focus on something?
There's what we call facing.
Don't do it. If you can't do it,
there's what we call facing. So when you have, look, it's like a human body. We have the circulatory system, excretory system, digestive system, nervous system. It's like that. So will you say you will not eat, you want to face circulatory system first and forget the
digestive system?
So everything has to work together. But like somebody said, how do you eat an elephant? You eat it little by little. So you can face it. But it first begins with a vision. We want to build a 100-floor housing. Let's build 100 floors. But we can do 10 floors first. And then in the next 10 years, we do another 5 floors, and the next. So that's the way it will work. We just don't seem to have a beginning, and we don't seem to have an end. If we cast a vision, what are the milestones? What are the quick wins? So that we can measure, every citizen can measure, what is the Nigerian vision?
Thank you.
Will you contest?
We need to close.
This is all that's all we can take.
Nigerians don't need someone like me.
I tell you. All right,
because they want me to give money to people.
And you won't do that. Somebody told us on the show that he's happy that you're chairing this panel because you're incorruptible. He told us straight up that, isn't that he's incorruptible. There's nothing I can do now. You get the value. I mean, he told us he was very confident. All right. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on the show. That's all we can take on the show today. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.